back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It's another edition of it's a very special edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast. We welcome in a couple of guys that I was thinking about this, that we have not talked to on the same pod since we were all in Fort Lauderdale together for the OU-Alabama college football playoff game, and that is the Oklahoman's Ryan Aber and the Athletics' Jason Kersey, good friends of ours, along with Eddie Radosevich. And I'm Carey Murdoch, and welcome in. We just thought we'd, do some more pods because there ain't shit else going on. So, we'll just do some pods. And Eddie brought it up, and I said, yeah, that'd be a great idea. And hit up Ryan and Jason, and they were all for it. So, guys, welcome into the podcast once again. Good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Carey.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be with you.
The pool has already started. How long it will take until Pearl Jam is compared to Creed?
Well, there's zero comparison. We'll just start off right there.
Yeah.
One is about 3,000 to the 10th power better than the other one.
Now, let me ask you, I haven't asked you this. How many times have you listened to the new album so far in quarantine?
A few. I haven't gotten to listen to it as much as I probably thought I would have, just because usually my music listening time is in my car, and I haven't had to spend much time in the car, except we made a couple drives and listened to it on that until my daughter complained about it, and we had to, find some Taylor Swift.
It wasn't Frozen 2 or Taylor Swift. Well, she's probably too old for Frozen 2.
She's very out of the Frozen era, but she's all about Taylor.
I'm surprised, Carey. You don't seem like the kind of guy who would like Pearl Jam to me, because you're such a music snob. It feels like that's not good enough for you.
What are you talking
or something
about?
See,
this is just a shot. You're finding a way to take a shot at Pearl Jam right now.
He's taking a shot at both of us there.
Your music tweets make me feel like you're the kind of guy who uses the word derivative to describe things that you don't think are good enough. No,
I like all kinds of music, and of course I liked Pearl Jam. I mean, I mean Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Seattle and grunge and Alice in Chains and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I just felt like
your era, right, Carey?
Oh yeah, that was right in my wheelhouse, man.
I just felt like firing a shot right out of the gate. So let's go.
I'm all for the shots. That's why we have you two on, because the electricity.
Walking on eggshells already.
I figured this was just about getting Kersey and I on to fight and hang up on each other eventually.
Let's see how many subscribers we can cause Jason Kersey to lose today.
Oh boy! Oh god!
I'm sure we could. There could be some topics where we could.
Oh my god! No kidding.
Really ramp that up. We might be able to put the Athletic out of business if we kept Jason talking.
Oh, if Seth Davis can't do it, then Kersey can't do it.
That's probably true.
I'm not that bad.
No, you're not. Nobody's that bad.
Be.
So yeah, it is. I mean, let me ask you guys, just in quarantine. I mean, obviously there's not a lot to cover. I mean, we've had some teleconferences here and there. We'll probably continue to have some. Everybody's kind of fishing for content. Just trying to find some things to pass the time and keep readers and subscribers happy. But I don't know. I would say that I've been pleasantly surprised by just fans in general and how they've handled it. I think there is kind of it's a weird time, because no matter what you say, it can get people riled up politically, whether you're making fun. And I know you ran into a Moore rally the other night, Ryan, and Eddie and I were ripping on the Penn Square assembly the other day.
Gosh.
But it's you're going to get some of that, but I've been kind of pleasantly surprised that a lot of people haven't, really just gone nuts and just made everything political, and people have kind of let you speak your mind a little bit more than usual as a sports writer, I feel. I don't know if you feel that's true, Jason.
Yeah, well, on this subject, I mean, I think I saw a poll today that said that like 30% of the country wants to rush us back into opening things up. I mean, this isn't even a partisan issue, I don't think. I think that most people realize that we're going to have to do this for a while. And I think most people realize that it's more important that we save people's lives than, rush back to play football again. So I think it's a pretty small group of people that are pushing that stuff. And I don't think they represent the majority of people, even in this state. I really don't.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. That this is something that crosses all political lines and hasn't divided us in a way that a lot of issues have in recent years. And, we'll see. But that small vocal group of people, as I saw last night a little bit up and more, are the ones who have the ability to change this thing and make it last a whole lot longer.
Well, let's be honest. I think a lot of sports fans are like, hey, kids, we want to get back to playing sports. And the longer you sit, you're out here assembling and spreading this thing around, that's just one more weekend. I don't have golf or NBA or NFL or college football.
Well, and heck, even down in Alabama, I think it was the governor that said it. It might have been somebody else down there that really, when this thing started breaking out a little bit over a month ago, said, hey, if you want to have Alabama football, you better listen to these things and follow these guidelines. And I think that woke up a lot of people down there. I think it certainly has the ability to do the same thing right here in Oklahoma.
Eddie, how are you doing today?
I'm good today. I would say that, the last couple days have been you find yourself in somewhat of a sports depression, but I don't know. I think today is better than other days. It's been a fascinating. I feel like I've learned more about myself over the last month than I have in the first 33 years of my life. Honestly, it's like
what you can do if left to your own devices.
Maybe that, and just like a very serious, maybe even like a serious look in the mirror thing, like what the perspective is on my life as far as just being thankful for the things that I have, I guess would be the best way to say it. I know that's off brand for me being so serious.
I will say this, I'd always mentioned when we were doing the pod, we need to come up with like a quarantini, something, a special drink for this. And Eddie's mind immediately went to like some cyanide laced concoction that was just going to put you out of your misery. And I was like, no, I'm just talking about coming out with, something that's kind of fun to drink.
You know what? Beer works for me. I'll just stick with beer.
Been drinking.
Yeah, that's mine too. I figure Eddie's over there drinking like Natty Light seltzer probably.
I've had some seltzers. I've also started just drinking bottles of wine, just a couple bottles of wine every night, or at least on the weekends to spend the time.
I was about to say a couple bottles every night, Eddie. Goodness.
Yeah, not every night, but definitely on the weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eddie's started cooking. He's gotten into wine. I mean, he's all grows up.
Well, Carey, Eddie's been into wine. I was shocked when we were in Atlanta and we went to a liquor store and I said, let's just get a box of wine. And Eddie looked at me like
Well, we can just do so much better than that.
It was like, oh my God.
Christmas,
you mean he looked down
Day,
at you is what you were saying.
Yeah. Oh my God. He was like, no, we're buying nice wine. I was like,
yeah.
okay.
You know how many bottles of the wine that we went through? I think I drank one bottle and left the other two.
Well, I was about to ask how much Jason spent at that liquor store that night.
Well, too
and
much,
how much
but
of it got drank.
Too much, but it was only because the Peach Bowl people told us the hospitality room was going to be closed, so we went and loaded up, and then it turned out the hospitality room was not closed. So that's kind of what happened there. Yeah, I spent way too much money on alcohol that day.
Let me ask you guys this. What's been, of everything that's happened, what do you think is the most either shocking or decision that I would assume Rudy Gobert for most people is kind of like the face of this in Oklahoma City, but from a college sports perspective, what's been the most kind of shocking news item that's come out of this or decision that was made? And Ryan, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think for me it's pretty obvious, and it was the NCAA's decision to cancel spring sports entirely. And I think to that point, a lot of us thought, I think I was just starting to shift in my mind, this was going to just be a really quick thing and we were going to get back to normal. I think with that decision to cancel, the College World Series, the Women's College World Series right here in Oklahoma City, and the swiftness that decision came down really opened my eyes and opened a lot of people's eyes to how long this thing was going to take.
Jason,
I thought even for the fact that we live in Oklahoma City and we're around it so much, I think the period of time from about 7:00 on that Wednesday night when the Thunder game was about to start to the point of, I don't know, what would that have been? 48 hours later in the Friday afternoon when was basically official that every conference in the country was going to, basically close down their conference tournaments. It's almost like time has stood still since then, at least on the sports side of things. And then obviously with what that led to and with what Aber said with, the cancellation of spring sports, I think that there's always been this hope that, we can obviously get things going and headed in the right direction, which I think they are. But at the same time, I think that, I think we'd all be lying to ourselves, and I'd be lying to myself if I said that I wasn't worried or fearful or scared that there wasn't going to be a football season in, the calendar year of 2020. I think that's probably just the looming kind of dark cloud over everything outside of, just staying healthy, is the fact that, our livelihood is in a way a little bit of a question mark right now.
Yeah, thanks for livening up the conversation with that bit last
I told you, hey,
we're all doomed.
No, well, this is not so dark, Eddie. So just think about what dark Eddie has been like the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that would be bad. But Eddie, I don't even think that was 48 hours. I think it was about
24 hours.
Well, even less than that, because I remember I got a haircut in Oklahoma City the day after the Rudy Gobert thing. So that Thursday.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting in the chair, the TV has Big 12, SEC, Big 10. I think there was maybe the AAC at that point had said that they were going to finish that game and that was going to be it. And so that would have been, 18 hours after Rudy Gobert, and sort of shook the sports world and really shook the world completely by testing positive.
I mean, for me, I think that I think it's definitely the Rudy Gobert night, because that was a crazy night. I mean, you had that happen. We found out Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson had coronavirus that night. That was the same night. And then the NCAA tournament being canceled. And I know that all the spring sports and the winter sports championships being canceled, that stuff all sucks and is awful too. But the fact that they canceled the NCAA tournament to me was like, whoa, this is unbelievable. Because they wouldn't do that if it wasn't, a $1 billion tournament is canceled. I think that's sort of when it really, really hit me. Although the Rudy Gobert stuff was pretty crazy too, especially since it happened here. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and the swiftness that the NBA, came down, where they said that the next day they were going to shut down for 30 days. I think that was the first real sort of punch that, hey, this thing isn't going to be really quick.
Well, guys, remember they had that Warriors game was scheduled to be played without without fans in attendance. Then you had that New Orleans game. But it was
it was Sacramento, right?
It was really just, to me, looking back on it, the thing that's bizarre about it is just how, like you guys said, how swiftly it shut down. I mean, people forget about this. Like, Lincoln Riley had a pre-spring press conference. We had a media availability for spring football, and the team practiced one time, and then we were supposed to have another on Thursday. And when the NBA stuff just set things in motion so much, you almost forget, like, today is Sunday as we're recording this. There was supposed to be a spring game yesterday, so we were supposed to be all the way through spring. But I'm just always going to remember the how quickly everything just went away and how quickly, plans had changed, like you said. And I think shutting down, starting the Big 12 basketball tournament and then just stopping it and finishing it, like all of that starting and stopping just on a dime, I think is what, to me, I look back on and just say, wow, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and you got to remember, too, that there were so many people that were already on location in Kansas City and had to basically just turn around, or if they were on their way, turn around on halfway up the I-35 to go to Oklahoma's game that night. And it just, the whole thing since then has been, it's just been weird. It hasn't felt the same, and I don't think that we're ever going to get that normalcy or that sense of feeling of normalcy back. It's just always gonna, in a really bad analogy, it's always gonna be like pre 9/11 and post 9/11. There were certain steps that you had to take after everything happened.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but you know what the difference there is that after 9/11, I went to school the next day. I still went to school. My dad still went to work. Like this is different in that. I mean, we can't. You can barely leave your house. I mean,
and we always had, obviously with it being in September, you had college football, you had the NFL, you had the Major League Baseball playoffs that were all returned at some point, and then the next coming days or the coming weeks, and there was always that sense of normalcy that you were able to get through sports, and that's obviously not there right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a string of, well, when I was growing up, the day after the Major League Baseball All-Star break was the day when there was never any sports. And you're like, how can I get through this day without a game on? And now we've had, a little bit over a month of it.
Guys, when this, the kind of the first glimpse of hope I think that we got in this whole thing was when Dr. Anthony Fauci came out and said, yeah, you could play sports. There won't be any fans in the stands, and I think you would have to have teams quarantined and monitored and tested. If you were going to play sports, and I'm curious. We kind of batted it around a little bit on the pod. Jason, I think I know the answer to this. Ryan, you've got family to think about. But I'm curious. So, like, if college football said, okay, we're going to have our teams quarantined in a hotel and everybody's going to be checked. There's not going to be any fans in the stand. Media, if you want to cover us, you're going to be quarantined for 3.5 months too. Would you guys be up for that? Being quarantined?
Man, it's hard for me because.
Well, you're married too, Jason. I didn't mean to say you don't have a
family. No, I know what you meant, but yeah. See, the weird thing for me right now is that my wife is still having to go to work. She works for Oklahoma City Public Schools and is, in the nutrition department. So she's having to go out and help feed these kids every day. I mean, which if she doesn't do that, these kids don't get fed.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a vital, important thing. But so I have that element also. So I don't know. I don't know what would happen if that was an ultimatum, because it's like I don't know that I can come home if she's being exposed to hundreds, thousands of people every day, and then go do that, if that would even be allowed. But I also don't want to lose my job. That's a tough one. I had honestly not really thought about that, Carey. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it'd be really tough for me too. The good thing for me is my wife is able to work from home. My daughter's been schooling from home, so if there was a situation where she could go with me and have to be quarantined in a hotel room, we'd probably be all right with that. Now, if it was otherwise, then it'd just have to be me by myself. There would be some talking to do, but that's a tough decision for sure.
Where have you guys been? And I think Carey and I have been pretty, transparent on where we feel like this is, or our kind of our feeling on it. But just like the daily updates people have felt like they needed to throw out there. I understand that it's newsworthy when, somebody says something and somebody, especially in power, like a Bob Bowlesby or, whoever from the NCAA or, whatever. But I feel like
Mike Gundy.
And we can definitely get into the Mike Gundy stuff. I think a lot of people know how we feel about that. But where have you been as far as the daily updates, knowing that it's, the middle of April and there still is time for these, decision makers to make decisions? There doesn't need to be a wide-ranging decision on the future of college football in the middle of April.
Yeah, and there really can't be right now for a lot of reasons. There's just so much unknown going forward, where these decisions are going to be made, sort of trickling out over the next few months. So it's definitely something, Eddie, that I listen to and read about and, keep an eye out for. But I've tried to get not too caught up in these decisions, just because, like I said, how fluid everything can be right now.
What do you think, though? What do you guys think, though, of constantly having to deal with people that want to write these stories about projecting when things are going to start, though? It almost feels like, and my guys don't feel any pressure to have to do that, but it's just like everybody's looking for one of these little morsels of information to be able to run with this big headline about, leading researcher says, no way this country's opening up until 2022.
Right. Yeah. See, that's kind of how I feel, is that we just don't know. I mean, nobody knows. And pretending like, I understand that we have to, reporters have to report, and we have to, people are desperate for that sort of information. But I mean, the truth is, the only people that matter right now are, political leaders who make these decisions about shelter in place stuff, and the public health officials and
infectious
people like
disease
Dr. Fauci.
people.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter what Joe Castiglione thinks, really, because he has no idea. He has no idea, and he's not going to be the one making these decisions. You know what I mean?
Well, it's people get fired up about things that Mike Gundy said, what Dabo Swinney said, and things like that. And then, we all have to ask Lincoln Riley similar questions, and not that we're trying to, get him to say something stupid, but it's just a question you've got to ask. When do you think this thing's going to come back? How will it look? But the answers are ridiculous and meaningless because nobody knows.
Right. And yeah, that's exactly right. And see, I think that it doesn't matter, like I said, what these people think about when things are going to turn around and stuff. But I also think that, and maybe this gets us into this Gundy thing, but people like Gundy and Dabo Swinney have a responsibility to not say really stupid things that are totally at odds with what public health officials are saying. And it's like, I mean, when Mike Gundy talks about getting everyone back on May 1st and says things about how 18 to 22-year-olds they'll just recover. Well, that's not true. We know that that's not true because people are dying at that age. And Dabo Swinney talking about flying to Florida and how he's not scared. He's going to go to Florida to his vacation house. I mean, that's just unacceptable. And because there are people who will hear that. There are OSU Clemson fans who will hear that and think, well, I can go to Myrtle Beach because Dabo Swinney said that it's okay. Or even if Dabo Swinney is doing everything exactly right, even if he's sanitizing his plane like he says he is. I mean, that's just so tone deaf and stupid because not everybody has a plane that they can get sanitized.
Well, and it kind of comes down to, what we're seeing with, people starting rallies and stuff. Like, people are looking for a reason. Some people are looking for a reason. I don't know if they're just crazy and they just, they would be doing this even if it was the, apocalypse or whatever. You'd find someone protesting. But, yeah, you are kind of giving weight to that, that fringe segment that's out there in the population to be, okay, let's gather. This is a bunch of bullshit. Like, this is a hoax or whatever. I mean, the stuff that maybe, I don't know, mentally imbalanced is the right way to put it, but
it's the right way to put it, Carey. I mean, it takes something special to believe some of the things that I've read.
Yeah.
The hoax, the 5G thing.
Oh my God.
All this stuff.
Well, it's also, it's amazing. Like, I'm sure some of you have had friends that have sent you like, hey, watch this video. It reveals a lot about this. Like, these people are out there making like these really professional looking news reports that are complete hoaxes, and people buy into it. Like the links that people will go, the deep state network that is out there. It's unbelievable how much, how easy it is to fall for some of this stuff now.
Well, Carey, I tweeted about this a few weeks ago. I went to pick up takeout from me and Annie a couple weeks ago, and I was just making small talk with a woman, and she starts telling me about how she saw a video that said that COVID-19 was patented in 2006.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what I can't keep track of all these insane conspiracies.
Yeah, like the 40 involving Bill Gates.
Yeah. Those are insane. Those are absolutely insane. And I know I like to joke around about like conspiracy theories and stuff, but some of the stuff is pretty scary. I would say that.
Yeah.
The craziest thing is definitely the craziest.
They don't involve you directly.
Sure.
Yeah, the craziest thing is definitely the thing that was floating out there about Harvey Weinstein and Oprah being a child trafficker and all that stuff.
Oh, and Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks was
saying that his diagnosis was like a code.
And didn't some people say that he was actually in prison when he was doing the Saturday Night Live monologue?
Yeah, the Saturday Night Live stuff.
My God, people have time on their hands.
It's an interesting thing to talk about, though, just as far as how that can be combated, because I do think that more than ever, I think that there are just people that flat out, if it comes from a particular media news source, they just dismiss it as I guess you can't call it anything else other than fake news, which I think is funny to an extent, but it has become a wide-ranging, I guess, kind of a societal problem, if you will.
I'll tell you this, and this is maybe Aber gets this a little bit more. Maybe you kind of remember this a little bit, Kersey, but before the internet, and you guys know like Richard Linklater, he did Boyhood, and I think his first movie was called Slackers, and it was set in Austin, and but he had this character in it, and I always remember this. Like, there used to be, before there was the internet and all this access to all this stuff, like, there was a certain segment of the population that all they did, their life's work was trying to prove the conspiracy theories around John F. Kennedy's murder. Like, that was like there was a third. You guys have all heard like there was a second shooter and all that stuff. Like all these whack jobs. All these whack jobs that are out there now doing all this deep state stuff and coming up with all these Harvey Weinstein and Oprah. Like, those people used to all flock to Lee Harvey Oswald, conspiracies and that. So there's always been a segment of the population that's been like this. It's just the internet makes it more visible, I guess.
Well, it makes the whack jobs, for lack of a better word, visible, but it also feeds into these. It's easy for them to disseminate conspiracy theories, and people do research by watching YouTube videos, and then they
take that as gospel.
Crazy opinions.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've been pleasantly surprised because I haven't seen a ton of that stuff. I think a lot of people are just like everybody else. They're just hanging on. And we kind of got off track there on one thing that Kersey was talking about in the Mike Gundy stuff. But the thing that I think is different for us guys is the university setting. It's so different from the NBA or the NFL. Last time we talked to Joe Castiglione, he brought this up on the teleconference that, schools have to open back up at some point, whether that means, kids on campus, kids not on campus, whatever. There's so many hoops that colleges have to jump through that professional sports leagues don't have to worry about.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes through. Oh, sorry, Jason, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Carey, to that point, I think the most interesting statements that have been made in the last few weeks were after, I guess, the college conference commissioners and Jack Swarbrick from Notre Dame and all those guys had a conference call with Vice President Pence, and I guess they told him that they weren't comfortable playing sports until the campuses are open, which that changes a lot to me. I mean, that if what and also what does that mean? Does that mean that online classes count or don't count? I mean, how do you do that if you're not if campus isn't open and if that means there's no football, then I mean, I think that's probably a pretty bad sign. I don't know. I thought that was some of the most interesting stuff that's come out here lately.
I'll be interested. Go ahead, Aber. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think at some point that's probably gonna have to be revisited. The question of whether there could be a situation where you could have college football without physical classes going on at the university, just because there might be a determination that, hey, there can't be physical classes for a while, but it'd be okay to be in these kind of settings that athletics would allow for. We'll see if that gets revisited. But also, I think that the NCAA has to be really cognizant of just the optics of things right now with everything else that's going on around their enforcement, the name, image, likeness thing, and the any thoughts about college athletes getting paid. They can't make them feel like employees too much because of the consequences for those issues.
Well, go ahead,
that's
Eddie.
what's going to be interesting to me is that they've kind of left the door open a little bit, and I certainly appreciate the fact that they have. But who's to say that it isn't considered a university being opened if the campus or the buildings on campus are open, but you're not holding classes inside the classroom setting? I think that's what's going to be interesting here over the next couple of months to see, obviously what steps are made by, the people that are testing, but outside of that, what is the line going to be as far as, if they're not back, if we don't have a decision by July 15th, what's that mean? I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think there's any way they start football on time. I do think that there's still an opportunity out there that they could get a football season in, though.
Guys, I'll say this. I think schools, and like you said, revisit, I think is the key word here. There's a long history, especially at the University of Oklahoma, when President Cross back in the day said we want to build a university our football team can be proud of. There is a history of, I know kids, and I've had friends that live out in California, and their kids grow up. They went to OU, but their kids grow up, and they end up picking schools based on kind of athletic programs and football teams. I had one friend whose daughter went to Alabama, another one's at Florida right now. And to me, I think if you're a president of a university, you can't sit around and worry about optics as much. I mean, your optics already look bad. You're going to be forcing kids to pay regular tuition prices and not have a campus experience. I mean, that in itself is already kind of, I've seen that come under fire a little bit. And to me, if you can give your student population something to look forward to, which is sports, football on the weekends, then you need to do that right now. I mean, people need a distraction right now. Even if it's in a quarantine control environment, people need that stuff right now. And it's not just, in college, it's their students. And it might be, Joe Blow working, down at the meat packing plant or whatever. Nothing against meat packers, I'm just trying to come up with an example, but I'm just saying, it could be good for everyone to have football, regardless of, I just don't think you can get caught up right now in, how does this look? Because we've always, this is amateurism and we don't want to give off the aura of this being like hired guns and stuff like this. Just don't worry about all that stuff right now.
I'd say the SEC produces probably the best product for its fan base and understand its fan base. I don't see any way that group they'll stand up there and say, yep, the football season's canceled. You can't have it. I don't, and maybe that's just me telling myself that, so I have something to believe in or I have some type of hope, but I just can't imagine them laying that down for its fan base and basically saying, sorry, but we're just not going to do it.
Yeah, I think just for the amount of jobs that would be lost if we lost a college football season, Not only obviously it would affect our industry, but these colleges, most of them aren't making money for the athletic department as a whole, but the money that they're making comes from the football program. And if you don't have that, there's a lot of other programs that, including on the college side, that wind up having to get cut.
Is there an obvious, thing that's going to come out of this for any of you about college athletics moving forward in the future, whether it's, the way that, there's been some talk about, maybe some of these non-revenue sports don't need to be traveling, to West Virginia, that needs to be more regionalized. Do you think that there's going to be a tightening of the belt across the country with college athletics after this is over with?
I don't think there's any doubt about it that we're going to see that, and we've already seen it. Heck, Cincinnati was it that cut their soccer program?
Right. Yeah.
I saw another D2 or D3 school down, I think, in Texas that discontinued a lot of their programs. So I think we're going to see that across the board in college athletics.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, it just, you look at and even some of the small schools that basically run their athletic program on the money that they make from a scheduled appearance in Norman or Austin or Tuscaloosa. The Florida A&Ms of the world, it's going to be
the Missouri States. Missouri State coming down here.
Cincinnati dropped their men's soccer team. I mean, and I think that, the other part of that too is there's going to be big time, or not big time, but big G5 schools and maybe even some smaller Power 5 schools that have been looking for reasons to eliminate an Olympic sport, and they can use this as, more or less an excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I talked a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. I'm losing track of my days here, but I talked to Patty Gasso, and she said she hopes there's a football season, even if it's played in the middle of their season next year, because she said, I'm not naive. I know we need football. And so, yeah, I think that we're going to really see some tightening of the belt. I think we're going to see some people trying to find creative ways to save money. I think we're going to see coaches getting their salaries cut, which probably needed to happen anyway, frankly. We've seen that some schools eliminating bonuses and things. Maybe this is the tidal wave that was coming when it comes to these increasing salaries in college sports. I'm not saying that this is a good thing or anything like that. I'm just saying maybe this is what finally breaks the dam on that stuff, and maybe some of that stuff gets a little bit more under control.
Yeah, and the escalation of salaries, I mean, it's happening across the board. I mean, you see at OU, for instance, I mean, look at what Alex Grinch is getting paid for a defensive coordinator job, and you look at all the coaches people like places like Ohio State have, and then the ridiculous amounts of support staff that Alabama and Georgia has, and recruiting budgets even. Georgia has kind of become legendary for how much they're spending on recruiting every year. You look at that stuff, and no one has been willing to reel in Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, or I think Joe Castiglione probably is as frugal as you'll find at a major program that's going to college football playoffs year after year. But there's going to have to be more oversight with some of that stuff, because in this time you just can't continue that. Like, I don't know how Alabama is going to continue going on with a QC for it's almost like they have a QC for how to dress for practice or something. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I think that kind of stuff is probably going to be cut back too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if some of that stuff is cut back now, and maybe some schools like Lincoln Riley, I think we probably all know has wanted to increase that stuff and get a little bit more on that level and have more people, and maybe this means that OU won't get those sort of advantages that maybe Lincoln thought he was going to get.
Yeah, but it goes far beyond football, and Eddie and I might be the only ones who have paid attention to this topic, and I assume, Eddie, you'll fall in this group, but this talk about getting another assistant in college baseball and college softball, that's been kicked up in the college baseball community, that talk's over. And I think that there are going to be a lot of eliminations of assistant coaches in a lot of those minor sports to go along with contracting of what they do in football.
Yeah, Ryan, you talk about those smaller sports being really affected. If you're a volunteer baseball assistant coach, you're basically I might even say more than half of your salary every year comes from the camps that they run over the summer and get those kids in. And now you're facing basically a summer that you're not going to be able to have that. And I know Oklahoma has actually announced that they're going to be going from town to town and holding one-day camp to try and generate. But I mean, there's a decision parents are going to have to make. Are they going to send their kids to, go be at a baseball camp with? I don't know if they're going to cap the number of how many can be around or what, but you're going to have to make a decision there, and it's obviously not going to be as much as you would probably be paying for those campers to go to spend a week in Norman and live in the dorms and do that entire experience. So it really hurts the pocketbooks, no doubt about it. About those guys that are volunteer assistants or even just the regular assistants, whether it be in the baseball or softball programs.
Yeah, and that really does kind of show you, and even summer camps, losing summer camps. Oh my gosh! A big part of for football, a big part of paying those assistants what they can pay them is a lot of that money from summer camps goes into that fund to pay your assistant coaches. It's just the ripple effect of this stuff, and budgets and all that stuff. Like, we could probably put paper to pen to it. I think we would just be shocked to know how much revenue is being lost. In not just the Big 12 basketball tournament, but you start putting in summer camps, not just for football, but for baseball and softball and everything. It's like this little micro economy that's just been taken away. And even, what are they going to do with season ticket sales? Are they going to have to refund? Is Sooner Club going to have to refund? I'm sure they don't want to, but you're going to have some people that are like, why am I paying this donation fee if I don't have season tickets, or we can't sit in the stands this year? That's another thing that really hasn't hit home either yet.
Well, and how about the idea that what was I just completely lost my train of thought. I had something and then it just completely left. Go ahead, Aber. I'm going to think about this for a second.
Well, just the amount of ways that they'll be affected. You think about the loss in donor money, not just the season ticket money, but like you said, the Sooner Club, the money that they get, that those losses are just going to magnify and affect programs. And for decades, this isn't going to be something where, everything's going to return to normal, even financially. As soon as this thing's over, it's going to take quite a while to get back to normal. I think that much is clear. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that affects college athletics in total.
What was the number that Baylor threw out there? I remember what I was going to say. Wasn't it $80 million that they are already planning to lose over the I think it's the course of the next year because of the lost games and obviously the lost spring and possibly the lost attendance. I think 80 million was the number that they threw out there.
I would say, guys, I think we're when are we ever going to get the finish of the stadium renovations? Remember when they did the new Switzer Center and all that stuff, and they had these grand plans, then the oil prices tanked, and so they couldn't do that. And now with this, are we ever going to get a new press box? I realize that's the least important thing in the world right now.
You son of a bitch. Kersey's worried about the press box and the pandemic's going on.
I just don't think that stuff is ever going to happen, or at least not for a long time.
Also, I'll be the one to say this. I don't want a new press box.
I don't either, because they're going to tuck us in the corner.
Exactly. So we have the best view. Well, one of the best views. Like, I could think Notre Dame's is incredible.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's the best. There's a couple other that are relatively similar, but we got it pretty good up there in the press box as far as doing our jobs. I'm not going to complain too much about that one if that doesn't get done.
Do they?
But like Jason says, that's not getting done anytime soon.
Well,
neither is the baseball stadium or the softball stadium.
Well, it wasn't. I was
We're
joking
giving
about the
you
press box
shit,
a little bit.
Kersey. Come on.
I know that, but my point just is that there were grand
No,
plans
the master
for the
plan came
stadium
out. Yeah.
that are done now. Beyond what has already been done.
Yeah.
So.
And they went so far.
The escalators.
They went so far as to put up a master plan for the basketball arena too, and that never, because they knew they weren't going to be able to do the west side. Like they never even introduced the basketball play. They didn't even want anybody to see that.
Yeah,
they knew they weren't going to make any headway
also
there.
their chance was I'm trying to remember the name of the park that's up there at Norman that they were talking about building in sort of a commercial area. That was their shot to get a new basketball arena. And when that didn't go anywhere in the city of Norman, then that went out the window.
University North, I think, is that development area.
Yeah. University North Park, I think.
Yeah,
that's right.
But no, look, we're so far away from worried about oil prices and all that stuff. It's just here's the one thing that's the most sobering to me, which is probably, the way things are going right now. You can definitely see it happen. Can you imagine the Red River rivalry with no fans in the stands?
Somebody asked me that earlier this week, what they would do. And I like even the idea, which I think we can all agree, when sports comes back, it's gonna be without fans. So we're gonna just have to accept that reality. Carey, we've talked about what it would look like to cover it, how we would cover it, but just the idea of like playing an away game. Does OU would they? I guess they have to. Would they travel to Lawrence to play in a stadium that is empty? The previously scheduled games at neutral sites, that would just be incredible to walk through the state fair with no fair is going to be set up. You can't have hundreds of thousands of people together. We can probably just go ahead and eliminate that idea. And then B, a empty Cotton Bowl, just like, would they just move it to Jerry World? I have no idea. Would they just play it at the Star? It really is kind of an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, you could play that game at the Star.
It is. And why on earth would you play at the Cotton Bowl? It would feel a lot.
Plus, the Star is attached to the Omni, so you could quarantine pretty easily.
Yeah, that wouldn't
be.
Did
I just solve the problem? Are we going to just quarantine everybody at the Omni and play the Big 12 conference at the Star this year?
Eddie, where were you in 1918 when OU Texas got canceled because of the Spanish flu? And
where were you?
They couldn't find a way to reschedule that game.
I was going to read about that in the Daily Oklahoman, but the guy that wrote about it, not so much, not for me.
Yeah, he's a little rough, but maybe someday he'll get a little bit of polish to him.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, this is so third world problems, but I mean, if media were involved, aren't they going to have to limit how many people can actually be in a press box at one time?
Well, you would think so, and you'd have to be quite a bit more spread out. Of course, if there's nobody in suites, then that opens up some other areas. They could almost give us a box each at that point. But
can we get a carving station outside? I'd love to have a carving station if we're going to be sitting in the suites.
That would be nice.
That's it's funny to think about that, but like I was telling Carey earlier this week, do you think that they just give you a section if there's no fans that are going to be in the stadium? Would the Oklahoman get like section 4, the Athletic get section 5, and Sooner Scoop get section 6? How would that even work out? And like, are they going to really tell, I guess, players' parents that they can't come? There's so many questions.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have any of the answers to it, but
I never even thought about parents.
It's going to be insane.
Yeah, and then does this change the dynamic of press conferences forever? Will we wind up having them on Zoom? Something like that, or doing some kind of teleconference instead of being right there, 16 inches away from somebody.
Yeah, from a video standpoint, I have no idea. Like the sidelines are usually pretty packed. I guess they would let you still film, and in a way, the schools are going to need media to cover these events, because if fans can't get in, the interest in it's going to be higher than it ever has been.
Oh yeah, they're going to, especially for TV, but even I think down to what we're doing, they're going to be accommodating. It's just a matter of what that looks like and the dynamics of everything once the thing's said and done.
Well,
hey, can we talk?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kersey.
I was just thinking about things that have happened here recently that are more interesting to me than they ever would have been before, because I'm so desperate for sports. I was just going to bring up, can we talk about Gabe Brkic's videos?
Oh,
Holy
we
crap.
celebrated him the other day as the what did we say about him, Eddie? Like he was is there ever been a player that has had the season that he had, that like until he started putting out those videos, like literally I think most OU fans forgot he even existed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and not to mention the fact that the guy
We've just offended
didn't
Kersey,
win
I
the
can
job. He didn't win the job out of out of camp. I mean, that's insane. And then he had probably
Nice job, Jay Bulware.
Is it the? Well, that's why they got rid of him. Did he have the best season or the most underappreciated season in Oklahoma history? I know that for a kicker is kind of funny to say, but I mean, he came up in huge spots for them all year.
The video, I think you put it out there, Eddie, the swagger that he walked out to kick that game winner against Baylor with.
Oh, it was
I mean, that, and then all these videos, like I think that I hope we get to talk to him a lot, whether it's on Zoom or not. I have a feeling he's a great interview. We wouldn't know because we never got to talk to him last year.
Yeah, I talked
not bitter,
to him at Media Day, I know, and after, what was it, the Big 12 championship game, I think was when he was made available for the first time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's been available, I guess, a couple times.
He was an interesting, insightful guy, and honestly, I think, was it you, Jason, talked to Reeves Munchow and said similar things about him?
Yeah, he was great. And I have like a bunch of stuff from him. I planned on doing a story about him at some point. I guess now I should probably go ahead and do it. What else am I going to write?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewrite gamers from the mid 2000s for the rest of the summer.
Between Gabe Brkic and then did you guys see Spencer Jones' video yesterday, the walk-on wide receiver?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Basket, that's unbelievable. A lot of pressure on Casey Keller to get something going viral. If he's going to be if that's the kicking and holder unit next year, Casey Keller as the deep snapper has to go viral now too.
Guys,
absolutely.
We mentioned this earlier, and we kind of did our own on Sooner Scoop. We did our own little predictions about what we would have been talking about today or writing about today if the spring game had happened. For Aber and Kersey, I'm curious what you think your biggest takeaways outside of Spencer Rattler, because I think everybody was going to talk about that or write about that. I guess maybe, if you think he would have solidified himself as the starter and if they'd had a full spring, but what do you think you would have, been writing about coming out of the spring game today?
Well, for me, I think obviously that would be one of them. I mean, I guess if Tanner Mordecai had an incredible spring game and Rattler was bad, then maybe we'd all have to rethink the things we've been saying. I don't think that would have happened, but
which, by the way, Kersey is the one who spearheaded the we're not going to call this a quarterback battle.
Yeah,
which never materialized because we didn't really have a spring.
Yeah, I refuse to do it. It's not a quarterback battle. It's not real, and I'm done playing these stupid games with Lincoln. I like Lincoln, but I'm not playing these games with him anymore. I almost fell for it with Austin Kendall. I almost got
until
to a point
he got benched by West Virginia.
Where I was like, wow, that must have really been close. I actually started thinking that, and then Kyler won the Heisman, and I was like, why did I ever buy that? So. So that's one thing, but I'd be interested to see like how TJ Pledger looked, how Marcus Major, Seth McGowan, the other running backs, especially after Trey Sermon left. I'd be really interested in that.
Well, and Trey Sermon plus the possible suspension of Ramondre Stevenson to start the season. I think that would have been a big talking point coming out of the spring game, just how deep they were at running back.
So does the NCAA just go ahead and let Trajan and Ramondre
That's a good question.
And those guys just let them play? Or if the season is pushed back, just go ahead and let them play the whole season? Can we just count this as the suspension?
Yeah, I think, was it MLB that said that their suspensions wouldn't be in effect next year if the season is canceled?
Oh,
something canceled. Like that.
It wouldn't carry over to the next season, is what you're saying, for MLB.
That it wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it shouldn't. They shouldn't have been suspended in the first place, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, and I'd said this around, like I'd heard that, all that stuff was pretty much decided now. Like that's one thing we didn't ever get a chance to ask Lincoln, but he's refused to even address it. It's a done deal. Ronnie Perkins, Ramondre, all those guys are going to miss. I mean,
Trajan Bridges.
The appeals did not
we
work.
knew that because, even back then when they didn't play in the Peach Bowl, I dug through the NCAA rulebook and I could not find anything that would allow for the kind of appeal Lincoln was talking about. I don't know where that came from, because I think that if there was an appeal, it was denied because they would have let him play in the Peach Bowl if there was any chance that would get overturned.
Yeah. At this point, I think Lincoln's just hoping and praying that maybe the NCAA changes its rules on testing for certain things and overturns suspensions that are already in effect.
Which I think that, if you did get suspended for recreational marijuana, I think it's time that, they can use this time to say, okay, that's BS. Let's lift that.
The dispensaries are an essential business right now, guys.
Essential for you. And
no
Eddie.
comment on that, but I'm saying the state of Oklahoma says they're essential. They're all still open.
Hey, I'm not judging if you got your medical marijuana card. Go to it. I'm all for it. I'm not judging anybody here. Eddie.
Thank you for not judging me, Carey.
Oh, Jason, he'll judge you. He just won't judge you for that.
Yeah. I'm trying to. No, I don't want to. Maybe being too into the Noble Bears. I'll judge you for that.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Ryan, I don't know that we really got what you think would have been your prediction for biggest takeaway out of the spring would have been.
Oh, I talked about the running back thing a little bit. I think we would have been talking about that. I think we would have been overreacting to every little thing about the defense and what it looked like with the new coaches, how Jamar Cain fit in over there, things like that. But would have been a whole lot better than the reality of what we're dealing with right now, for sure.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we did get to talk to Alex Grinch, and the one thing that I took out of our talk with Alex Grinch, I even asked Lincoln Riley about this, but it was that they came out of that Peach Bowl, and it was so bad. I don't know if Justin Fields will ever recover from that game. It's just one of those things. Just from a fan standpoint, a confidence standpoint, I don't know that you'll ever see Justin Fields
Justin Broyles
on Justin Broyles, Patrick Fields.
You said Justin Fields twice.
Yeah.
Are you breaking news that he's transferring to Oklahoma?
It's this whole Ohio State thing that we went through last night that's on my mind, I think, with this commitment that was and then wasn't, and who knows what's going on now. But yeah, Justin Broyles, but the thing was, they seemed to be very encouraged, even though it wasn't a great game for any safety, but they seemed to be very encouraged about Woody Washington. I was kind of looking forward to seeing what he could do in the spring, especially with Delarian Turner Yell out.
Yeah, I was too. I thought he was in, relatively good position in some of those. It just, some of them turned into amazing plays on the other side. But I was looking forward to seeing how those DBs responded in the spring after having that obviously really rough finish.
Yeah, it would have been very interesting because it did feel like you can look at the end of last season in two different ways. I feel like you either look at it as just the ultimate failure and the ultimate kind of embarrassment that OU finally or still is not able to get over that hump. And I don't think that there were too many people that thought that they were. You look at it as the 2019 season, they got to a college football playoff despite a number of deficiencies within that team. And, there is a lot of young talent down there. It's just going to be interesting to see how they can make that jump. Offensively, I think this group's going to be really good. And that was one of the things that I wrote was I thought you were going to leave the spring game thinking Spencer Rattler has a ton of people to throw the ball to, whether it be any of the three former five-star guys in Jaden Hazelwood, Theo Weiss, or Traden Bridges, or, even a guy that I think has kind of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit and probably the number one guy that I envision of being, and we've talked about him on the Unofficial 40 multiple times, as the number one guy that really felt like he got a bad deal last year in Charleston Rambo. Then you have Austin Stogner and that group of H-backs. It's going to be kind of interesting to see, obviously Riley's going to be able to do it offensively, but what kind of jump does that defensive side of the ball make? And, particularly what you just said, Carey, at that safety position with Woody. And then, how does Justin Harrington fit into everything once he gets to campus? He's the type of guy that, with the campus being closed, I would have to think is going to be put into a really unique situation when they are able to get this team together, as far as, he basically is going to have missed all of spring. Are they going to ask him to just basically step in from day one and be a guy in the secondary?
Oh, I think it makes it much less likely that a guy like that is going to be able to contribute this year. I think we're going to see a whole lot fewer true freshmen play in college football this year.
And your only hope really is guys like Perion Winfrey that were, have already played junior college ball.
Yeah, those kind of guys.
My other favorite moment from the little bit of media access we had in the spring was Alex Grinch basically saying, he didn't say this directly, but he kind of said LaRon Stokes ain't done shit. And I don't know, was that your question, Kersey, that you asked about LaRon Stokes? And he was like,
I don't think I asked about him, but I do remember when he said that. I don't think that was my question.
I think it might have been a Paul Mateer question.
Oh, yeah. We should have invited Paul Mateer on the pod, but then we'd have a hair battle.
Well, he would win it.
Hey, I was about to say, with who?
Well, look, what would Paul Mateer contribute? Because the last time we were all together, Eddie was covering the Texas Tech game up at the Chesapeake, but the three of us were hanging out playing trivia at the bar, and Tyler Palmatier was there as well. I don't remember Tyler Palmatier ever answering one single question the entire night that we had that trivia contest.
Yeah, he wasn't jumping in on those conversations as we were trying to decide what we were going to answer. But
I will say,
we did pretty well that night.
I will say, Kersey impressed me more than anyone has ever impressed me that night. Because one of the questions was, how many electoral votes does Tennessee have? And it was like Rain Man. Immediately 11. And he ran up to the podium with the answer. And I was like, shit. He really knows his stuff. I know a lot
of random stupid shit.
Yeah. Jason has the electoral map committed to memory for sure.
Hey, since hair got brought up, I have to give a shout out real quick to my wife. She gave me a haircut yesterday and it actually looks pretty good. She'd been asking to do it for a week. Because
were you going Wolverine?
She said, and I quote, you're starting to look like season 1 Fraser Crane. But I didn't want to let her do it because, I don't know why I thought I have some magical hairdo that she can't do.
I was just about to say, that can't be too difficult, right? Just put a 1 or a 2 guard on your razor, on your set of clippers. I assume you have a set of clippers, and clean it up and then, line off the back and you're good.
Yeah, I'm like you. Well. I'm like you, Aber. I just happened to get a haircut right before the shit hit the fan. So
I'm in the perfect position, but I probably would have been going back right about now.
Yeah, I've missed my follow-up appointment 10 days ago. So Eddie doesn't care. He never gets a haircut anyway. He's about
follow-up appointment. That sounds like it's a medical thing. Follow-up appointment.
Well, no, my next haircut. Will you get a haircut and then you put yourself down 5 weeks later. And then you get. I know you don't understand how this works, Jason, but
that's but that's not a follow-up appointment. It's just
it's another haircut. Yeah, I'm sorry, I worded it wrong.
Is every 6 months a follow-up with your dentist?
Oh, I haven't been there in a very long time.
Oh, don't admit that.
Well, I'm not like, Austin Powers or anything. I had braces and stuff.
Do you
as
have
a kid.
dental insurance, Carey?
I do.
Why are you not going? Why not use it?
But I think it's only
cleanings
for
are
cleanings.
generally free.
Yeah. I think that's all my dental insurance gets me is cleanings. Because if I go in there, they're going to have so many root canals and stuff going on. I don't want to deal with that. And unless I'm like Tom Hanks in Castaway, I'm not going to the dentist.
Then they ask you when the last time you flossed was, and you
oh my God, I don't even want to answer that question.
Yesterday, when you haven't flossed for
I'd rather tell them
18
the
years.
number of STDs I've had in my life than the last time I flossed.
Well, how many is that? That's an interesting subject.
Well, it's obviously one or more.
Poor use of analogy there, Carey.
Well, can't all be winners.
In more ways than one.
So the one thing that we haven't talked about is how this is affecting gymnastics, Aber.
I mean, it's massive. We've tweeted about Maggie Nichols incessantly over the last 6 weeks. Lincoln Riley jumped into the conversation.
I'm trying to open the door for Kersey to just go after you, is what I'm doing right now.
No, I'm not going to do that because in 2 days on The Athletic, be sure to check out
Jason Kersey pitch coming in.
Maggie Nichols.
I should have been counting Aber interruptions of me on this podcast. Anyway, no, Tuesday on The Athletic, big Maggie Nichols story coming out, so be sure to check that out. I'm not going to give anybody a hard time about gymnastics.
Yeah, I knew that hard time was not forthcoming just for that reason.
It only took a pandemic to get us here. The Athletic writing about gymnastics.
No, I was going to do it anyway. I had done most of these interviews a couple months ago. So, no, I was going to do it. Lindsay Morrison, the SID for women's gymnastics, has been after me about doing a Maggie Nichols story for a while. She does a really good job, and so I'm doing it.
Is she the one athlete that got screwed more than anybody at OU out of this deal?
Yeah, Maggie.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard to say it was Christian Doolittle because they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah, and Christian Doolittle is going to play basketball in some way professionally again, or not again, but he will.
He'll continue. His career will continue.
Maggie Nichols goes from the pinnacle of collegiate sports, being able to be a 3-time individual champion and would have won a third time team champion. So her career is done. There's no more gymnastics for her. So yeah, I would say that she was the one who was most affected by this.
Yeah, it'd be like saying after the 2017 season, Baker Mayfield, you're not playing it anymore. You're not playing sports anymore. You're done.
Yeah,
or maybe somebody bigger. Maybe somebody even bigger, because from what I can tell, and obviously I'm not going and covering the meets and stuff, but Maggie Nichols, would it be fair to say she's probably the most popular women's collegiate athlete? Maybe not of all time, but certainly top 5. Like, I don't think
she's way up there.
I don't grasp how big she is, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, she's massive in the gymnastics world. She's obviously big at OU, especially as gymnastics has continued to grow over the last couple of years because of how good Maggie Nichols was and is. And then that's gone. I mean, it'd be like, Leroy Selman having the rug taken out from him before his last bowl game, things like that. It's just hard to imagine that's how her career ends.
Eddie may have just lost his chance at that Zoom call with Lauren Chamberlain with that last comment.
I mean, I think everybody would agree with that.
Are you trying to self-sabotage so it doesn't happen?
I mean, I don't know. It's just awkward.
Eddie is speechless.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
I think it's more funny for you guys.
It's funny for everybody. So what do you guys, just outside of all this stuff, just day after day, just trying to find something else to write about, kind of like everybody else right now for you?
Yeah, pretty much. I've written about why I fell in love with sports initially.
Yeah, I saw that
things
was
like
a great,
that.
a cool deal that you guys did, and everybody doing that. That was really good.
Yeah, it was Lincoln jumped on board and agreed to do one for us. That was great, and we've had a few others that have done that as well. But I spent the better part of the first 3 weeks, I think, after this thing, researching Oklahoma City's reaction to the Spanish flu epidemic in 1918, which Eddie brought up earlier. We started talking about that. Now it's just trying to figure out what in the world to write about. This is going to be the most normal week during this whole thing. This week coming up, because we actually have something real to talk about, something real to witness, something real to cover in the NFL draft.
Yeah, and that's I don't know, it is really interesting because we've all spent so much time seeing the good and the bad of Kenneth Murray, and the fact that there haven't been he didn't have to do anything at pro day. He still had that hammy. He basically ran 1.5 40s. And it's almost like this has worked out better for him. Not saying that he would suck if he had to do a bunch of drills or anything, but it's almost made it to where Kenneth Murray is like, it's hard for anyone to question what he might not be. You can turn on his film when he was a freshman. You can see some of that stuff as a sophomore. But I don't know. To me, it seems like this has really kind of helped keep his stock high.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt when you look at the OU stable of potential draftees that he's the one who benefited most from this whole thing. And I'd say on the other side, Parnell Motley could be a guy who suffers a little bit just because it's going to be really hard for guys who weren't invited to the NFL Combine to be drafted. I think I saw a story, and I wish I remembered where it was, and I wish I could have found it to reference and give proper credit. But it said that about 40 undrafted or guys who weren't invited to the Combine each year wind up being drafted. And a scout told this reporter that it might be 10 this year, if that. So it's going to be that drastic of a cut.
Well,
so yeah, I think he could be one of the ones negatively affected by Parnell Motley.
I might actually disagree with that, Ryan, because at least he had his pro day. There were a lot of guys that didn't even have their pro day.
That is true. In the batch of guys who weren't invited to the Combine, he's got a pretty good chance because he did have his pro day. He performed well down at the Shrine Bowl, I think it was, that he played in, and obviously what he's got on film. But I think he would have been a guy who might have benefited from the meetings and in-person visits, things like that.
And I think the only thing that's really hurt CeeDee Lamb, to be honest with you, is the Baylor game last year and the questions surrounding that.
And that wasn't even a performance thing. That was more of a, why aren't you playing? And that thing.
They showed that game the other night again, and it just reminded me of the weirdness of that night.
It's still weird to this day, and it kind of goes into the secrecy of Lincoln Riley. But, there were so many things swirling out there the week of the game, and then he comes out and he goes through, I remember being down there on the field, and it's like, okay.
He's catching punts, right?
Yeah, he's out here. He's going through his regular pregame,
yeah,
and
that's
everybody's like, okay, he's playing.
That's not a concussion test that he was getting in the pregame.
No. I've never known a concussion test that you go out and you go through your pregame.
Yeah, the absurdness with which Lincoln Riley has addressed that particular issue equals the absurdness of the quarterback battles over the last few years since he's been there.
Well, and it's just one of those things. Now that he's in position and you've got Judy and Ruggs and all three of those guys vying to be the first pick of the draft, it's like you're looking for, warts on a prom queen or whatever. I mean, it's like, could that hurt him? I don't know, but I know, there have been people that have contacted me saying, I have some scouts asking me, so I thought I'd call you and see if you'd heard this or that. And to be honest, I just never got a good feel on it. I chased it down. I looked at police reports. I looked at police activity logs, all kinds of stuff from that night that could have, said something, and just couldn't find anything. And that was the rumor, that he got into a fight after that Iowa State game, out on Campus Corner or something. And, he had a turnover late in that game that ended up almost costing him. And you just wondered, it just was so weird. And there are legitimately, people that are making those decisions of, can you trust this guy? Is there something that's being covered up about his which I don't, we've all known CD. We've all dealt with him. It would shock me if, he was a kind of a problem.
That is the only thing that has ever come up with CD Lamb.
Yeah.
I can say that. And I would say even, just as far as getting to know him through the shortened media sessions that we had, I would, go on record saying that I don't think that CD Lamb's a problem for any professional team. And I don't think that you're saying that either, Carey. I'm just clarifying. I don't think that we've ever heard of any, this guy's a asshole in the locker room. People don't like him. I don't think there's anything like that.
Yeah. And with him, we're talking about if these things are dissected, he could fall from, number 9 in the draft to number 20. He's still going to be a first-round draft pick and have a really good chance to thrive in the NFL. It's just when you're talking about 3 guys as good as these 3 guys, because I think in most years, one of these 3 guys would be a pretty clear number 1 wide receiver then you're just splitting hairs.
No, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah that said that he has 17 wide receivers in his top 100 going into the draft on Thursday. And I mean, it could be said that this is as deep of a class that has ever been in the draft from a position standpoint. And, with that said, I don't think that you see Lamb drop past 13. It seems like it's 9, 11, 12, or 13.
It looks like there's that group of teams right in there that's going to pick wide receivers, and it's really clear who the top 3 in this are going to be. And it sounds like that this is the deepest wide receiver class, or has the potential to be the best wide receiver class since what year was it that Jerry Rice came out in the early 80s, maybe 83, something like that, this could be the next coming of a class like that.
Well, and talking about, just this draft class in its entirety, I think, I don't know, haven't you all kind of been a little perplexed about Neville Gallimore and exactly, you see, he's all over the place on mock drafts. Nobody really knows where to slot him or where he is, but he kind of, to me, is like Parnell Motley in that he had a really good year with Alex Grinch, but you look at the tape before this year, and it's not always great. And he was playing in a different scheme, when Mike Stoops was the defensive coordinator. And really he got better because Alex Grinch played him fewer snaps. And I don't know if that's the thing that NFL teams look at and say, we need a guy that's more durable, that can play a lot more than he plays. But I don't know. He ran a good time at the combine, and I've just been a little confused about, why he hasn't been talked about a little bit more.
Yeah, he's the one that you're not going to be surprised wherever he's picked next week. If he's picked, early in the second round, or if he has to wait until, the fifth round or so to go off the board. He's a guy that I have no clue what's going to happen with. And yeah, it's been weird not to hear much from him over the last month or so.
And I always forget Jalen Hurts played at OU.
Me too.
Oh, yeah, about that.
I mean, what do you guys think? Just if he goes in the second round, is that just do you just kind of say to yourself, what does the NFL see?
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Why he seems to be rising in the draft boards. It just doesn't make any sense to me, personally. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I'm sure he's very impressive in the private
interviews,
meetings
yeah,
and all those sorts of things, but I don't see him as an NFL quarterback. And if I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong, but that would really surprise me.
Yeah, although I will say this, I think maybe with the changed dynamic of how this season might start as far as training camps, things like that, maybe these teams that are just thinking for next year think that a guy like Jalen Hurts could get ready quicker if they need him than some of the other quarterbacks that we're going to see.
And I mean, he's probably getting a little bit of a boost because of Baker and Kyler, and that they've had success in the NFL coming out of that system. People don't look at Oklahoma quarterback as like they did a Texas Tech quarterback where they're a system guy, I think. So that probably helps him a little bit. It's just, you watch the tape and it's just, he's not Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry. He's just not, he's not even Kyler Murray when it comes to elusiveness and quickness and explosion. He's a big, powerful quarterback that runs the ball well and is not the most accurate passer in the world.
And there was always
often couldn't find CeeDee Lamb when he was wide open.
And there was always that thing out there, and we talked about it at the time when we were down in Atlanta, but there was just, and it kind of followed him to Norman, this national infatuation with Jalen Hurts, just as far as, there were so many people that even go back to the playoffs last year that labeled it as Jalen Hurts is carrying this Oklahoma team back into the playoffs, when in reality, that could have been further from the truth. They won despite him. Now, and it's been on a couple times this week, and I've found myself watching it. He was excellent in the second half of the Baylor game down in Waco the first time around. Outside of that, though, you think about the Iowa State game. You think about, there was multiple games down the back end of the schedule, maybe even West Virginia a little bit, that OU won despite Jalen Hurts turning the ball over late. And specifically, the Iowa State game is one that comes to mind, probably the most with the way that he turned the ball over. Was it 3 times in in the fourth quarter, or twice specifically? But I don't know. I've never been quite there with Jalen Hurts. I don't know what it is.
And it's just like, the whole, I think one of the more damaging things about Jalen Hurts' year last year was, you guys remember, we're sitting there in that little tiny closet in Kansas, and somebody asked him about OU Texas. Might have been Hoover. And he's like, I played in big games. Like I played Auburn, Alabama. And then he went out and he just played like crap against Texas. Almost lost him the game.
Yeah, that was the initial pat your head moment, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that was when it all started to, because after that first game, the Houston game, I was like, oh my God, this guy's unbelievable. And then it just sort of, as the year went on, I felt like there were more and more moments where you really started to question that. And he took so many carries away from Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon. I mean, he just did. I mean, that's just obvious. So,
is it hyperbole to say he's the reason that Trey Sermon's transferring?
No, I think that's absolutely
I think he's part
the
of
case.
it. I think he's part of it.
I think he's a big part of it.
But I don't know. I think that, you're going to – I think that when people look back at Jalen Hurts, I don't know how to quite say this, but I guess I'm just thinking that, is he going to be remembered as like a great Oklahoma quarterback? I almost feel like people are going to more remember and more fondly remember in 10 years Trevor Knight than Jalen Hurts, because that Alabama game was such a big deal. And I almost feel like that alone, I guess maybe the Baylor game, the comeback against Baylor was pretty big. But I just sort of feel like, is after his pro day, is he ever going to come back to Norman for anything ever?
I think he had an autograph thing scheduled.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might come back to get some money, but I think he's going to be much more remembered for what happened at Alabama than what happened at Oklahoma. And I think that's inside each fan base as well, that, he's a different guy. He didn't put in the time that Trevor Knight didn't have that bowl performance like Trevor Knight did. And he only had the 1 year. So he's going to be a guy who's going to fade a little bit, I think.
I always found it weird, like when Trevor Knight would post on his Instagram when he was back at A&M, because I was always like, did you really go to A&M, really? Like, it was like, and the fact, I don't know if that's and is that like, the A&M fans, like, oh, Trevor Knight, like, does that just kind of show how shitty they are offensively?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that they've been really bad offensively.
I mean, Kellen Mond's terrible too.
Well, that too.
So anyway, what do you guys are you excited about the Jordan thing at all coming up?
Well, I am. I mean, I grew up in that era. I was a massive Bulls fan, watching games on WGN all the time. So I'm fired up about it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this thing's all about.
I'm excited because for me, the 1990 Chicago Bulls, I was never really a Bulls fan per se, but I mean, that sort of defines in many ways my childhood as a sports fan, was watching the Bulls, even if I wasn't a fan of them, watching Jordan and Pippen and Rodman and Steve Kerr and those teams. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's awesome. I actually just watched Space Jam a couple weeks ago for the first time in a long time. So I'm in a real Michael Jordan mood lately. But hey guys, out of all this, I have learned who's on a train right now.
No shit.
Oh, that's by my house. I live.
What do you live like on Miller or something?
I live in Moore, so it's south side of Moore.
Why do you need
35?
Why do you need to sound the whistle right now? No, well, I guess if you're in Moore, they're assembling, but like no one's out. Like everyone's quarantined. Are you really going to hit anybody?
Well, right. No, what I was going to say is that I have learned here on the last few days on Twitter. I don't know if you guys knew this. Did you know OU is a Jordan school? I didn't know that.
I was unaware. I hadn't seen any such things, Jason.
I would say that
every once in a while you gotta roll into the closet and check out and see what kind of shoe collection everybody has.
Yeah, Eddie, yours was spectacular.
Thank you. I'm very excited for this. This is, I would say, before Tiger came around, and probably you'd say 1A, 1B with these guys. But for my age, Kersey's age, I would say Michael Jordan is the top of the list. I mean, I don't know anybody that didn't have the Michael Jordan wingspan poster in their room growing up, or live for the Saturday. It seemed like it was every Saturday night the Bulls played on WGN, and you were able to see it. And the intro, every person knew. I'm serious for it.
Alan Parsons Project.
Yep.
Michael Jordan and Ken Griffey Jr. to me were like the epitome of cool when I was a kid. So,
see, and that's like
pretty cool.
Growing up in Southwest Oklahoma, you didn't give a shit about the NBA, but man, I loved watching that ascension of the Bulls as a kid. Seeing them having to make their way through the Celtics were old then, and Bird had all the back problems. And Jordan
Robert Parrish was about 55.
Oh my God! And then Jordan went out and put up huge numbers in that first round playoff game or whatever it was, and then to see him have to find a way to get through the Pistons. I mean, those Pistons. It was such great theater. I mean, even as a young kid,
Bill Laimbeer involved.
Yeah,
Rodman when he was on the other side.
Rick Mahorn and all those guys, just the bad boys. I mean, and you hated Isaiah Thomas and. I didn't feel so bad about microwave Vinny, but they were so hateable, and it helped build Jordan into kind of like this superhero that was fighting evil, and you rooted for that.
Yeah, because remember the talk of that early period in Jordan's career was he's never a guy who can win. He might
on his own. Yeah, he's
just bring a team to the conference finals or the finals, but Michael Jordan's never going to win a championship. And then all of a sudden, Phil Jackson gets there, and everything changes once Doug Collins isn't their coach anymore.
Not to mention, people don't realize that watch the NBA now, like what it was like when you had to play against either Detroit or the Knicks, and just how, like, Michael Jordan was the star, and he had some role players, and he had Scottie Pippen. But their center's job was just to be straight up thugs against all the other thugs that were in the league.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I mentioned Bill Laimbeer's name earlier, and he's the one Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn are the two guys that I think of when I think of that era.
And then Charles Oakley is one of those.
Michael Jordan. And Oakley. I still hate the Knicks from that era.
They were. It was awful. It was just brutal basketball. But yeah, but the only disappointing thing I think about is that it's just about the last season. I was hoping it would kind of chronicle all the stuff we just talked about, kind of how the Bulls came to, how they had to kind of take their lumps and become the team that they became. So it's weird that it's going to be 10 episodes just on a final season.
Yeah, but I think that has a potential to be even more interesting because of the film access and things like that. And obviously the more magnified look, I guess, at that season versus the entirety of the Jordan era.
Yeah, and that's definitely a point that as much as I remember it, I don't think that I really grasp or remember particular things, and that's why I'm going to be excited to see. I remember like watching the finals and stuff when I was like 8 or 9 years old, so I don't really remember that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that I think I will find out that is kind of new to me, and I'm especially interested to see just kind of the inner workings of the relationships that people had with Michael Jordan. Because I think when you get down to it, as fond as we remember Michael Jordan, there's a lot of people that just think he's an asshole. So I'm kind of excited to see that.
Well, we've talked about this a lot because I do a morning show with a guy that was from Chicago that, he used to do traffic from a helicopter. And like every day they would fly over Michael Jordan's house just to see if they could like catch him outside. But there has probably never been another athlete, never will be another athlete where people turned the other way and ignored some of his behavior away from the basketball court.
Oh yeah, nobody is polarizing in those multiple ways as Michael Jordan, and that's why this thing's going to be really fascinating to see the sort of magnified look at one very particular point of his career.
And wasn't it not too long after Space Jam came out that he and his wife like broke up too? Because I always remember like she's in that, and you always see her, and you're like, oh, that's not his wife anymore.
Was that his real wife? I thought that was just an actor.
I think it was his real wife and his real kids.
I always assumed that it was those were all actors.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was really his family.
Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, anything binge worthy that you guys want to throw out there that I'm sure some of you guys are Ozark guys. I'm gonna assume that everyone here has watched Joe Exotic because I haven't.
Yeah,
you haven't?
No.
What is going on with you, Carey? Have you just been like spinning vinyl all day, every day?
Not that. You know what I am? I'm a big YouTube guy. I love going down YouTube rabbit holes. I'll watch like,
Speaking
hot
of conspiracy
ones.
theories.
No. Like I watch like hot ones, like the interview show where they eat hot wings. Like if you've never seen Gordon Ramsay's episode of Hot Ones, you need to do that.
Oh yeah,
this
I'll
week.
have to check that out.
It's fantastic. He literally starts squirting a lime on his butthole as he's eating the hot wings because they get too hot. But that's fantastic, and I don't know. I'm a weirdo when it comes to that stuff. My attention span is so short. I just love watching stuff on YouTube.
Be honest. You think Tiger King is derivative, don't you?
Yes, this is a aging hipster thing that I'm doing. Like I refuse to binge watch. It's so beneath me. No,
I've been doing sort of. I've been two things. One, similar to what I think, Jason. I'll give you a plug this time. The Eric Horn back and forth about things to do during this time.
Yes, thank you for mentioning
the
Unofficial 40. By the way,
of course,
that was awesome.
It's legit a podcast I listen to most weeks, almost every week.
But plug there for you too, Carey. But I've been doing what Eric's doing and binge watching both Arrested Development and The Wire, which are both rewatches for me. And also, my wife and I started Game of Thrones, which we never watched. So
really,
that'll be an interesting ride. Yeah.
See, I would say Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, well, and Lost, but now you can't go back and watch Lost now. I don't feel like it would be all that relevant anymore. But Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, the two shows that I feel the best about spending my time binge watching. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch back up on Better Call Saul because I've heard the last couple of episodes have been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been really good. And next week will be really interesting. I'll just say that.
And that's now gone on just as long as Breaking Bad has. Better Call Saul.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I watched the scene the other day where Hank met his end.
Ooh,
it was I forgot how good that episode was.
Gosh, I love The Wire. The Wire is my favorite TV series of all time. But that's probably the best episode of all time. The Breaking Bad one you're referring to.
I quit on The Wire, by the way.
Me too.
When?
4th season.
I know you're you, Jason, but why Carey?
I don't know. My family bought me the DVDs for Christmas, and I'd been talking about it, and I was really into it. And I don't know. It just other things took up my time, and I never went back to it.
Go back to it. I think you said 4th season.
Yeah.
So yeah, go back to it. You'll enjoy that. The 5th season is a lot of media. The focus is on the media, which is interesting. I didn't necessarily think that was perfectly done, but I think that happens a lot when your profession is sort of the one, under the microscope a little bit.
I think it was because they were I was so wrapped up in the whole pager thing, and when they finally kind of figured that out, I never gave it a chance to reset and grip me again.
Well, give it a chance to reset. I think you'll enjoy it. I know Jason's reason for dropping it, but I keep trying to talk him into picking it back up and finishing it, and he'll eventually appreciate Bodie, the character.
I won't. Wallace's death. Wallace
show.
Let me talk. Wallace's death is the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen on a television show, and I never recovered from it. I never recovered from that scene, and it was great acting, and it's great writing and all that. But that pardon my language. Sorry, you're gonna have to beep. That me up really bad.
Yeah, no, that death, and anybody who hasn't watched it, Michael B. Jordan's character, that death probably affected me as much as anything in a TV series I've seen. So that was a heck of a moment. But Jason, I'm telling you, pick it up, watch it, just finish it and see what you think.
I will tell you this, the worst death in TV history for me that literally made me quit watching a show was Glenn in The Walking Dead.
That's another show I confess I've never seen an episode of.
It's good for about 6 seasons.
I need to check that out, and I think it's on Netflix, so maybe that's something I binge next.
Yeah, you might give it a shot. For me, as big as a binge snob as I am, Kersey, I greenlight Walking Dead.
I'm just giving you shit. Man.
Another thing,
it's okay. I'm a pretentious ass. I agree with that.
I did start watching the first few episodes of Schitt's Creek the other day.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that like that.
It's great. It's great. We just finished it about a week ago.
The episodes are really short, right? Like I could breeze through them.
Yeah, it's a little 20-30 minute sitcom.
Yeah. Okay. I might do that this week.
Really clever, really funny.
I'll be honest, I need something. I know Kersey was a big Veep. I need to I've been through a couple seasons of Veep. That's definitely worth my time.
Mm-hmm. Veep is great.
I've just never found anything recently that I've liked as much as Silicon Valley.
I haven't watched that either.
Oh God, that's so good.
I got super into the first, 3-4 seasons, and then I don't know, it's just something that I just stopped watching.
Yeah, it has its ebbs and flows.
I'll have to check that out.
So anyway, well, guys, I appreciate you jumping on and doing this, and anytime you need the favor repaid, I'm always around. So especially
Carey,
these days.
you're the only Sooner Scoop person who hasn't been on my podcast. You realize that?
It's a corporate decision.
I've
I'm
never
kidding.
asked, so don't pretend like it's your decision. But
Really, dick. Thanks.
hey, you know what? I would have asked if you'd been in Atlanta for the Peach Bowl. You would have absolutely been on it then.
Maybe I would have
I'm
been
Yeah,
too
those
busy.
are some fun podcasts in the room that I got that was like, a floor and a half large.
Yeah,
you had
that
the
was
king set up out there.
What's that?
I said you had the king set up out there for the first couple days.
Yeah, it wasn't bad for the first, I think it was 5 days out of the 7 I was there. I was living pretty right.
Yeah, I missed you guys at the Peach Bowl, but now that was definitely a band decision on that one. So, but we got new stuff we're popping out there, so trying some new things. Forced me to miss.
Nothing wrong with that.
So I did enjoy not being there the way the game turned out.
Yeah, the game is certainly
Because you know
not
how
the thing.
I have that thing where we spent this much money for this shit.
I probably shouldn't be admitting this, but the truth is, I didn't watch a play of the second half until Spencer Rattler came into the game. I don't think I
Well,
watched.
I don't know that I quite go that far, but I think that's one thing maybe people that aren't in our positions, and mine's a little bit unique even among us, that a lot of times we can't watch every single play because in my case, my story has to be up in some version as soon as the game's over.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to have, at least a few hundred words ready to go. So, yeah, I didn't watch much of that second half at all. And the other thing is, people love reading about winners. When OU loses, people don't read as much because, they don't want to relive that.
Oh hell, and I have buddies that and I'm sure that you guys have friends like this as well. That OU loses a game, they're not listening to the radio, they're not getting on the board, they're not reading about it for at least a week until they get back out there.
Yeah.
After the 2005 OU USC game, 2004-2005 OU USC game, my uncle dramatically took every OU shirt that he owns, shirt, hat, everything, into the backyard and burned it.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
One of those guys.
yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Of course, then he had to go buy more stuff for the next season, but
Of course.
Yeah, hopefully he went to the Sooner Scoop shop and bought it all.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we promote burning your stuff after bad games.
right.
I think in that game, Bob literally asked me, do we need anything? And I was like, yes, you're still writing a story.
Yeah, you still got to write, but the impact of it.
But no,
much less.
I felt like I almost had to be like, yeah, I got to make him work. I paid all this money to go. But I knew deep down, it doesn't matter if you write anything or not. Nobody's reading it. Because that was the truth. I mean, not nobody, but, very few people are going to read it.
The numbers get reduced unless it's some, cataclysmic event the Mike Stoops fallout, even though that wasn't a loss, that, people actually want to read about stuff that they're disappointed in is pretty rare.
Yeah. It's just, that's one thing that this, pandemic has done. It's taken the focus off the way last season ended.
I think that people would kill for the opportunity to be able to bitch about,
a college football
Trey
playoff
Brown losing
blowout.
somebody in coverage or something.
That's who I wonder, what players, who's the one player who's going to come back fat after all this is over?
Honestly, I don't think there might be somebody that hasn't been taking care of themselves, but I think that, in a way that
It'd have to be an offensive lineman, though, or a defensive lineman.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be awesome if it was like fat Jaden Davis, but that's not happening.
No, those guys are going to stay active enough. But
Yeah.
the guys, the linemen who have very specific nutritional needs and, the way that they work out, I think that's got a potential to break in the wrong way.
Quincy Russell.
My God, has any effort
The defensive savior, Quincy Russell?
We literally chased him down in some strip mall gym to get an interview with him because he would not pick up the phone. And we shot video of him doing remember that, Eddie? Josh had video of him doing
box jumps in this a gym in Houston.
And everybody's
wasn't it?
oh my God, he's gonna be so awesome.
Look at the footwork on this guy.
That was literally what it was, yeah.
Well, and then he was late getting to camp, so we wrote about him every second of every day that first week of camp, and then he gets here and thud.
I would say the one thing, if you say what was the biggest camp storyline ever, there have been some, that was one. Ronell Lewis trying to get eligible was one, but the craziest one to me, and I don't know if it'll ever be topped, is whether or not Mike Balogun lost a year of eligibility because he played minor league football. It's some podunk league in Maryland or something.
What year was that? I think I was either in school or I know I wasn't around.
That was 2008. That was when you were in school.
Okay. Yeah, I was a sophomore or a junior.
Yeah, that was far before my time on the beat, but I've heard quite a few stories about that year.
I think Trotter had actually caught up with the guy that kept all the stats for the league. And there was this whole he just suited out for a game and he didn't really play. And once Trotter got a hold of the guy that kept stats, he was like, oh yeah, he was the best player in the league. He destroyed everyone and he was awesome. He played every play in every game. But somebody had made a concerted effort to erase all of his stats that they had online and stuff. It was awesome.
I can't imagine following that stuff, and especially nowadays, because that stuff you basically know that would be out there. It'd already be proven.
I don't know. These minor league football leags.
Yeah, you underestimate how
rinky-dink they are.
Not the word I'm looking for. Yeah, how small some of these operations are, and there's some things that you still can't find on YouTube for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I tried to end it. I'll end it now. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Appreciate it, and hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. And I look forward to the day when we all can hang out again.
Yeah. Carey, thanks for having us. I really appreciate it. That was fun.
Yeah, you guys
thanks,
are
Carey.
welcome to do this anytime because, like I said, what the hell else do we have to do?
This is true.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you back regular time later on this week with the Unofficial 40, but certainly appreciate the Oklahomans, Ryan Aber, the Athletics, Jason Kersey, Eddie Radosevich as well. I'm Carey Murdoch, and we see you guys back here next time on the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.